I never saw this coming.
The fact that I was caught staring at our new neighbor became a big issue. I wasn't caught having an affair, but my wife's reaction was something worse than I'd thought. It was unbelievable. One thing led to another. We argued that evening. Then the house went quiet, uncomfortably too quiet. Then it was our bedtime. Ben had fallen asleep nearly an hour ago.
Mallory lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. Her thoughts drifted back to Chloe. The garden, the staring, and the Wednesdays working from home. The way Ben always seemed distracted lately. She rolled over. Ben was sleeping peacefully. One arm stretched across the mattress, breathing slow, calm, completely unaware that his wife was lying beside him, questioning everything. Mallory sighed. Maybe Louisa was right. Maybe she was overthinking. Maybe she was turning harmless things into something bigger than they were. Then Ben's phone lit up. The glow caught her attention immediately. A notification. Mallory glanced instinctively, then froze. Louisa, her best friend. At 1:17 a.m., her stomach tightened. Why was Louisa messaging Ben at this time of night? Perhaps it was something innocent. Perhaps she couldn't sleep. Perhaps... No, something felt off. Very off. Mallory reached for the phone. For several seconds, she simply stared at the screen, her pulse beginning to quicken. Then she unlocked it. The notification opened. A voice note. Just one. The timestamp showed it had been sent nearly 3 hours earlier. Mallory hesitated. Then pressed play. Louisa's voice filled the silence of the bedroom. Soft, urgent, nervous. Ben, put your house in order. We need to talk. My place. The message ended. Mallory blinked. Once. Twice. Her heart suddenly hammering against her chest. What house? What did that mean? Why not message me? Why message my husband? And why did she sound worried? Mallory replayed it. Again and again. Each time hearing something different. Something she couldn't quite explain. The words themselves weren't alarming, but the tone was. The familiarity was, and the secrecy was. Then she noticed something else. The message had been set to disappear after being played. Mallory stared at the screen. A cold sensation spread through her body. Since when did Louisa send disappearing voice notes? And to Ben, at 1 in the morning? Her mind immediately raced through possibilities. Business? No. Family emergency? No. Something else? Something much worse? Beside her, Ben shifted slightly in his sleep. Mallory immediately locked the phone, her heart pounding. For several moments she simply sat there, trying to convince herself she was being ridiculous, trying to convince herself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Then the phone lit up again. Another message. From Louisa. Live. Real time. Mallory stared at the screen, a knot forming in her stomach. Slowly, she opened it. The message read, Mallory is worried sick about you. Did you get my message? Mallory stared at the words. Silence. Then she laughed softly. Relief washing over her. Of course, Louisa knew she had been worried. Louisa was simply looking out for them, looking out for Ben, looking out for their marriage. Mallory suddenly felt embarrassed. Embarrassed that she'd immediately jumped to the worst conclusion. She quickly typed a response. Ben is asleep. I'll pass on your message in the morning. Thanks for checking on him. She hit send, then placed the phone back exactly where she had found it. The room felt lighter somehow, less threatening, less uncertain. Maybe she really was overthinking. Maybe Louisa had been right all along. Maybe this was nothing. Within seconds the reply showed as read. Across town. Louisa sat upright on her couch, staring at the screen. Her wineglass untouched. Her heartbeat slowing slightly. Mallory's reply sounded normal, natural, reassuring. A long breath escaped her. Relief. For now. But something still didn't feel right. Because Louisa knew two things about Ben. Ben was careless, and Mallory was curious. Dangerously curious. Her eyes drifted toward the disappearing voice note, now permanently deleted. Gone. No evidence, no trace, no proof. Yet the uncomfortable feeling remained. Either Mallory had never listened to the message, or she had, and was pretending she hadn't. Louisa stared at Ben's contact photo, then closed her eyes. For the first time since that terrible night months ago, she wasn't afraid of Ben. She was afraid of Mallory. The weekend went by very quickly. Wednesday arrived quietly. Mallory had left early for a shopping appointment and a long overdue salon visit. Ben finally had the house to himself. Or so he thought. His laptop sat open on the dining table, emails, budgets, forecasts, the usual. His work-from-home day had barely begun when he heard a soft knock at the door. Ben glanced toward the hallway. Probably a delivery. He ignored it and continued typing. A minute later, another knock came. Softer, more deliberate, then a voice. "Hello? Is anyone home?" Ben immediately recognized it. Chloe. He smiled despite himself. Walking to the door, he opened it. There she stood. White t-shirt, denim shorts, hair tied loosely behind her head. Natural, effortless, beautiful. "Hi, neighbour," she smiled. "Hi, Chloe. Sorry to disturb you." "No problem. So there. I've got a couple of walls I want knocked down, and I was wondering if you could recommend a decent builder." Ben laughed. "That's quite a specific request." "I know. Depends what sort of job it is." Chloe smiled. "That's exactly why you probably need to come and look." Ben hesitated, only briefly. "Sure." A few moments later, they were walking across to her property together. The morning sun illuminated the gardens between the houses. "So," Ben asked casually, "settling in okay?" "I love it." "You seem pretty comfortable already." "I've moved around a lot." "Work?" "Life." Ben nodded. That answer somehow told him everything and nothing at the same time. Inside, Chloe's home was surprisingly elegant, modern, minimal, tasteful. Nothing like the image Mallory had built in her head. "I think this place is great," Ben said. "It has potential." "It's already spacious." Chloe laughed. Spoken like someone who doesn't spend most of his life in the kitchen. "You spend most of your life in the kitchen?" "Aside from my bedroom and garden." She nodded. "Absolutely." Ben laughed. "I wasn't expecting that answer." "What did you expect?" "I don't know." "A blonde woman who lives on salads?" They both burst out laughing. "Exactly." "See?" Chloe grinned. "Everyone makes assumptions." Ben found himself relaxing. Far more than he expected. There was something surprisingly easy about talking to her. No pressure, no tension, and no expectations, just conversation. As they entered the kitchen, Chloe pointed toward an awkward section near the rear wall. "This is the problem." Ben studied it. Then the adjoining pantry. Then the breakfast area. "I can already see what I'd do." "Really?" "Open this wall completely." Chloe's eyes widened. "That's exactly what I was thinking." "Then you're already halfway there." She pointed at him dramatically. "See? That's why I called you." Before Ben could reply, Chloe's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. A slight frown appeared. "Sorry." "No worries. I need to take this." Ben nodded. "I'll wait." Chloe stepped away, slowly pacing as she spoke. Animated, confident, laughing occasionally. Ben found himself studying the renovation plans instead. Anything except noticing how attractive she looked while talking. A few minutes later she returned. "Sorry. Everything okay?" "Business." "Good business or bad business?" "Depends who you ask." Ben laughed. Then Chloe pointed back toward the kitchen. "Okay, architect." "I'm not an architect." "Temporary architect." She smiled. "What would you do with the dead space if this was your house?" Ben began explaining. The breakfast area, the storage wall, the natural lighting, the flow between rooms. They walked slowly through the house, discussing possibilities. Neither noticed the time passing. Then Ben's phone rang. He ignored it. A minute later it rang again. This time Chloe glanced toward him. "You should probably answer that." Ben checked the screen. "Louisa." His stomach tightened slightly. "Sorry." "Go ahead," Ben answered. "Hi, Louisa." "Hi, Ben." They exchanged brief greetings. Then Louisa immediately got to the point. Did you get my message? Ben frowned. What message? The voice note. No. I thought Mallory passed it on. She probably forgot. Silence. Then Louisa lowered her voice. We need to talk. Ben immediately sensed something serious. About what? I'd rather not discuss it over the phone. Is everything okay? Listen, Ben. Her voice became tense. Are you alone? Ben looked across the room. Chloe was pretending not to listen while examining renovation plans. No, I'm with my neighbour. A brief pause followed, longer than necessary. Okay. Louisa finally spoke, and then we'll talk later. You're worrying me. You should be. The line went quiet. Then she softened her tone. I'll call you later. Fine. Just don't leave it too long. The call ended. Ben stared at the screen, confused, uneasy. Something was definitely wrong. You look troubled. Ben looked up. Chloe was watching him. Concerned, not curious, concerned. Everything okay? He forced a smile. Yeah. You don't sound convinced. Ben laughed. Maybe not. Family? Something like that. The complicated kind? The very complicated kind. Chloe smiled. The best stories usually are. Ben shook his head. I'm not sure this one is. Before he could say anything else, Chloe disappeared into the kitchen. A few moments later, she returned carrying a chilled bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. Ben stared at her. What's this? Chloe shrugged. My builder cancelled. She placed the glasses down. My kitchen is a disaster. The champagne cork popped softly. And my neighbour just spent an hour giving me free renovation advice. She handed him a glass. I think that deserves a toast. Ben laughed. You celebrate strange things. Life is too short not to. Their glasses touched lightly. Outside, the afternoon sun bathed the garden in gold. Across town, Louisa sat staring at her phone, waiting for Ben's call. Meanwhile, Mallory drove home completely unaware that her husband was drinking champagne with the woman she feared most. And, for the first time since Chloe moved in, Ben forgot to check the time.
Not immediately. One thing led to another. The conversation with Chloe lasted longer than he expected. Then there was the champagne. Then another conversation about renovations. Then stories. Travel, work, food.
Life. By the time Ben glanced at his watch, nearly 2 hours had disappeared. Wow, Chloe laughed. What? I should probably go. That's usually what people say when they've stayed longer than planned. Ben shook his head, laughing. You've got an answer for everything. So I've been told. They walked toward the front door together. Thanks for the advice. Anytime. Careful. Ben paused. About what? The renovation. She smiled. I might ask for more free consultations. Ben laughed. I'll send you an invoice. You'll never see a penny. Both laughed. Then Ben headed home. Across town, Louisa stared at her phone, still waiting, still checking, still wondering. No call, no message, nothing. Her anxiety was beginning to turn into irritation. The doorbell finally rang. Louisa stood immediately, opening the door. There he was, Ben, relaxed, smiling, completely unaware of the storm inside her head. Sorry. What happened? I got delayed. Louisa folded her arms. Clearly. Ben frowned. You sound annoyed. I'm not annoyed. You look annoyed. I'm fine. Ben stepped inside. Immediately Louisa noticed it. The faint scent. Champagne. Her stomach tightened. You've been drinking? Ben looked surprised. 1 glass. 1 glass? With Chloe? The words hit harder than Louisa expected. Silence. Only for a second, but long enough. The neighbour? Ben nodded. She wanted advice about renovations. Louisa forced a smile. Oh. Something unpleasant twisted inside her chest. Jealousy. Unexpected, unwanted, yet undeniably real. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had no claim over Ben. No right to feel possessive, no right to feel anything. Not after what they'd done. Yet she couldn't help herself. What's she like? Louisa asked casually. Ben shrugged. Nice. Nice. Funny. Louisa nodded. And? And what? She's beautiful. Ben laughed awkwardly. I suppose. You suppose? Everyone can see she's attractive. Louisa looked away. That answer somehow made things worse, because he hadn't denied it. The conversation gradually shifted, back to the real reason she'd called, the voice note, the disappearing message, the risk, the danger. Ben, you need to be more careful. His expression darkened immediately. I know. No, you don't. Nothing happened. Louisa laughed bitterly. That's exactly the problem. The room became quiet. Both knew what she meant. One stupid night. One horrible mistake. One secret capable of destroying everything. Meanwhile, Mallory arrived home. The house felt strangely empty. She placed her shopping bags on the kitchen counter. Ben? No answer. She frowned. Ben? Still nothing. Then she noticed something. A champagne cork, sitting inside the recycling bin. Mallory stared at it, confused. They didn't have champagne. Not this brand. Not any brand. Ben wasn't even a champagne drinker. A strange feeling settled inside her chest. Not panic, not suspicion or observation. She remembered Louisa's words. You're spiraling. Maybe she was. Maybe this was nothing. Still, she took the cork out of the bin, turned it over, examined the label, then quietly placed it back. Later that evening, Louisa sat alone on her couch. Ben had left. The conversation had achieved nothing. If anything, she felt worse, much worse. Her phone vibrated, a social media notification. Someone had tagged Chloe in a local community post. Louisa opened it absent-mindedly, then froze. The photograph showed Chloe standing inside her unfinished kitchen, smiling, holding renovation plans. The image looked innocent enough, until Louisa noticed the background, a reflection in the glass patio door, a man holding a champagne glass, laughing. Ben. Louisa zoomed in, stared, then zoomed in again. Her jaw tightened. For months she'd been terrified of Mallory discovering the truth. Tonight, for the first time, she was terrified of something else. The possibility that Ben might be moving on from the mistake they both swore never happened. Louisa lowered the phone slowly and suddenly realized something she never expected. She wasn't afraid of losing her best friend. She wasn't afraid of losing the secret. She was afraid of losing Ben. Louisa didn't sleep much that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the photograph. Chloe smiling, Ben laughing, the champagne glass, the ease between them, the comfort, the familiarity. By 3 a.m, she gave up trying to sleep altogether. Instead, she sat in darkness replaying conversations she'd spent months trying to forget. Ben's voice, Ben's laugh, Ben's touch, one stupid night, one horrible mistake. A mistake she had convinced herself meant nothing. So why did it hurt? The next morning, Mallory called. Louisa stared at the phone. For a moment, she considered ignoring it, then answered. Morning. Morning. Something sounded different. Not suspicious, not hostile, different, almost cheerful, which somehow worried Louisa more. Busy today? Mallory asked. Not really. Coffee? Louisa hesitated. Sure. An hour later, they sat together in their usual cafe. The same table, the same window, the same sunlight. Yet something felt different. Mallory seemed calmer, more relaxed, more confident. The opposite of what Louisa expected. You look happy, Louisa observed. Mallory smiled. Do I? Actually, yes. Maybe I am. Louisa frowned. That wasn't supposed to happen. Mallory was supposed to be spiraling, not improving, not smiling. The waitress delivered their drinks. Both women thanked her. Then silence settled briefly between them. Mallory stirred her coffee, slowly, casually, almost absent-mindedly. Then she asked, So, Louisa looked up. So, do you believe men and women can just be friends? The question landed like a grenade. Louisa's stomach dropped, but her face never changed. Depends. On what? The people? Mallory nodded thoughtfully. Interesting. Louisa suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Why are you asking? Mallory smiled. No reason. A lie. Both women knew it. Across town, Ben was trying to concentrate, trying being the key word. His laptop remained open, the same spreadsheet staring back at him, unfinished, ignored. His attention kept drifting, toward the garden, toward Chloe's house, toward the kitchen renovation they'd discussed. Eventually, he gave up pretending to work. His phone buzzed. A text. Chloe, builder is coming at 2 p.m. You were right about opening the wall. Feeling very smug right now. Ben laughed, before he realized it. He smiled and replied. Back at the cafe, Mallory's phone vibrated. A notification. She glanced down briefly, then locked the screen again. Louisa noticed, the same way she noticed everything now. What was that? Mallory looked up. The message. Oh. Mallory smiled. Nothing important. Then she changed the subject. Too quickly, far too quickly. And for the first time, Louisa experienced something she never thought possible. Fear. Not of Ben. Not of the affair. Not of exposure. Fear of Mallory. Because suddenly it felt like her best friend knew something and was waiting. Waiting for the right moment, the right question, the right mistake. That afternoon, Mallory returned home earlier than expected. As she pulled into the driveway, she noticed movement next door. Builders, equipment, materials. Chloe stood outside speaking with two contractors. Mallory watched for a moment. Then something caught her eye. Ben, standing beside Chloe. Both laughing. Both studying architectural drawings. Neither noticed her. Mallory remained inside her car, watching. Not angry, not jealous, not even surprised. Just watching, observing. The same way she'd observed Ben at the window weeks earlier. Then she saw something else. Chloe reached out, touched Ben's arm briefly. Friendly, natural, harmless. Yet the gesture lingered in Mallory's mind, long after it ended. That evening, Louisa sat alone scrolling through social media, trying unsuccessfully not to think about Ben. Then her phone vibrated. A photograph notification. Community group update. She opened it. The image showed the renovation work beginning at Chloe's house. Builders, scaffolding, construction materials, and in the background, Ben. Again. Present. Again. Smiling. Again. Louisa stared at the image, then zoomed in. And for the first time, she asked herself a question she wasn't prepared to answer. If Ben had to choose between protecting their secret or choosing Chloe, which one would he choose? The answer terrified her. The morning after. Mallory cannot stop thinking about the champagne cork, Ben's absence, Chloe, not enough evidence, not enough proof, just questions. Then fate helps her. She sees Chloe outside, gardening, watering flowers, relaxed, happy, beautiful. Exactly the sort of woman Mallory has spent weeks imagining. Instead of avoiding her, Mallory does something unexpected. She walks over, introduces herself properly. This becomes one of the most important scenes so far. Because for the first time, Mallory meets the woman she's been turning into a villain and discovers Chloe is actually incredibly likable. Chloe is warm, funny, open, unfiltered. Nothing like the dangerous temptress Mallory imagined. Then comes the twist. Chloe says, "You and Ben are lucky." Mallory smiles. "Why?" Chloe laughs. "Because he talks about you all the time." That line changes everything. Mallory freezes. Because that doesn't fit her theory. Not at all. Then Chloe adds, "Honestly, it's kind of sweet." Suddenly, Mallory doesn't know what to think anymore. Meanwhile, across town, Louisa receives a photograph. Community group update. Someone's barbecue, neighbours gathering, and there in the photograph, Mallory, Ben, Chloe. All smiling together, the image hits Louisa like a punch. Because she immediately sees what nobody else sees. The danger. Not Chloe, not Ben, Mallory. Because if Mallory gets close to Chloe, Mallory starts asking questions. And if Mallory starts asking questions, Eventually she reaches Louisa,